Alrighty, good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the BBC, the Boardwalk Broadcasting Company. Tonight we have a couple of different topics up for discussion. Guests today, familiar faces, Noslim and Mel. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to briefly go over a little bit about map selection for the different servers. And then we are going to discuss 4 to 6 of the questions that were raised yesterday in yesterday's awesome Discord Q&A. And kind of like, speculate a little bit more about them. We have Serpentius here. Not sure if Snipe Hunter's watching today or not. But Serp might be able to answer some questions, or Snipe Hunter, if he's around, might be able to as well. All righty, so let's see. No, Snipe's here. Welcome, Snipe. Welcome, Serp. Thank you, everybody. Also, don't forget to, Mel, if I can get you to type in the contest link thing in there. Tonight's code for our contest is "The Souls Are Being Forged." Once again, it is "The Souls Are Being Forged." And we've just posted that link there in the Twitch chat. You'll be able to put in one answer, please, one answer per person. You do have to be present at the end. And the wittiest, most humorous entry will get a choice of either 100 EP, a villager token, or a guild token. So let's have a look here. Let's dive into very quickly. Let's dive into map selection for the servers first. Hold on one moment. So I've just posted a link in the Twitch chat. My apologies for not having that image directly up, but it's a large image and it wouldn't show up too well. But if you click on that link, what it is those are 7 examples. They're not necessarily going to be the actual ones that we vote on or anything like that. But those are 7 examples of maps that Caspian had posted. I've stylized them a little bit, but the outlines are exactly the same. Those are 7 sample maps that Caspian had posted in Discord as to what some of the procedurally generated maps for the various servers might look like. And we can see there's actually, I'm really excited and very, very pleased to see that there's actually quite a bit of diversity in these maps. I kind of like, to me, there's 4 main types here. There's, the bottom 4 to me are all almost different variants of themselves. In fact, number 4 and 5 are almost identical, except for a couple of little minor differences in the coastlines here and there. 6 is very similar. 7 is a little bit different because you've got what would presumably be 4 kingdoms up in the top area with the lake there, and 2 kingdoms down in the bottom area, and that might make for an interesting and challenging map. And then, of course, to me at least, the ones that are very interesting are 1, 2, and 3. Is 1 would presumably have 3 kingdoms on the main island, with a different kingdom on each of the smaller islands. 2 would probably have 3 on the main island, maybe 2 on the bottom right island and 1 on the top island. And map number 3 would probably be divided either 3 and 3 or 4 and 2. And we are, I don't have any input on this, so I can't actually break any NDA as to when it will be happening. But kind of like, this is, map selection is becoming more and more talked about with the devs. And so I don't, it's on the horizon. It might not be on our doorstep, but it's definitely on the horizon and it's in sight. And for me, part of what's exciting about this is that it's yet another step forward. And recently we're starting to see many of these kind of like smaller steps forward, whether it's solid concrete releases about, more of how crafting is going to be, whether it's the name reservation, whether it's, and any of these things. Voxelia are on the horizon. Some of these are a little bit more exciting than others, but when you look at them as a whole, it's, the snowball is starting to move down the hill and gather momentum, and before you know it, hopefully we'll find ourselves in a very, very pleasant avalanche of events and information, literally cascading from the studio. So I want to then go into, we're going to be voting on the maps. We haven't yet heard kind of like the final methods upon which the voting is going to be done, but it's basically going to be everybody will get a chance to vote as it stands at the moment, and it's 1 soul spark per vote. So if you're a monarch and have 20 or 30 soul sparks, you have 20 or 30 votes, and you don't have to put all of them on one map. You can vote on various different maps that you might want for your server, and as it stands right now, you can even vote for because there's no way to monitor this. You can even vote for maps that you would like to see on another server. So there's that there as well. But what we shall do is let's transition into addressing some of the questions that were asked in yesterday's Q&A. And feel free to obviously make comments in the Twitch chat about it as we go along. And Noz, I think I'd like to have you start off on this with an introduction even of how the Discord Q&A came about, because yesterday was a first on this.
Yeah, this is definitely new cutting edge stuff for us, and we owe it to one of our fellow moderators, Reggie. Reggie's. I'm a hillbilly from Alabama. Just deal with it. I can't freaking talk. But anyway, this guy has produced an amazing product with this bot that he's been working with SBS designing. And it's an amazing contribution to the community. I don't think that we could have pulled off a Q&A of that caliber without something like this being implemented on the Discord server. You have multiple developers, not just onesie twosies, but I mean the house was full of developers being asked questions by the community in a controlled fashion. And I think it was good for the community to see the developer involvement in answering those questions and giving their feedback and giving their personal opinion and their personal feel on how they feel about tribes and various things, one thing or another. But a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into putting that together over the last few months, and it's a super awesome product, like I said, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. That was a phenomenal Q&A.
Awesome. So Mel, would you like to pick the first question to start us off here?
I would like to pick the first question. I think I'm gonna go a little bit out of order, so don't freak out. I think I'm gonna scroll down. So I think it was the 8th question that was asked, and it was about whether we're gonna have quests for legendary mounts and whatnot. And the answer was that no, there's not gonna be legendary in the sense that I think everyone's used to having legendary, like for example, in Guild Wars 2, there's a set path to get a particular legendary weapon, and that's you do that and you get that weapon, and boom, done. It's not easy, but you can do it and you know the outcome. Which is not the case in Chronicles of Illyria, which I'm actually really excited about because they're actually going to be legendary in a truer sense, because you're not guaranteed to get one. You're not they're not all the same, at least from my understanding. I could be completely wrong on that, but I think they're all going to be actually incredibly unique, so you're not going to follow this set quest line and get this set weapon, and then you have it and it's fun and it's really more cosmetic than anything. But then there's also about 1,000 other people that have the exact same weapon, and that's not going to be the case from my understanding in Chronicles of Valeria. So I think that's going to be really, really fun and really interesting to see those once people start finding them and whatnot.
You mean
Excellent.
I can't
Yeah,
just
sorry, go ahead, Nelson.
So, I mean, I think the reason a lot of people are asking about the legendary items is they're wanting to know if there's a pay to win element that can slip in there later on down the road. I think you hear people talk about legendary. It's fine if they're in the game, but I think that those are going to be very, very rare items, and I definitely don't think that they'll be purchasable. But I think that a lot of concern around the legendary items are, the people that are naysayers and are worried about someone gaining an advantage. I think these legendary items that we're going to see mostly in COE are going to be, just things that add to our story. They're not going to give us maybe a political advantage, but not necessarily a hack and slash advantage like so many are looking for.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Something, that that I'm really liking is the fact that none of these items are bound to character, and so these legendary items, I tend to think of them more as kind of like unique items, and that they're there to kind of like create the story as much as actually belonging to somebody. What you're going to be looking at is, I would imagine that they have to be powerful enough to want people to desire them, whether that's on a personal level and somebody, stabby somebody in the back as they're walking down the path with it, or are they going to be on a much larger scale, some of them, to where it helps, like the research level of a settlement or a county or something like that. I think they're there, like you said, Noslim, to help drive the storyline. Noslim, what question were you looking at choosing?
None of them. I didn't have any particular favorites, but for me it was a lot of the kind of run of the mill stuff that we're accustomed to seeing over the last couple of years. What did intrigue me was Adam Burfoot's question about metagaming, the people jumping into non-player characters and taking over settlements and gaming that system. To me, that's, I think that Snipe Hunter answered it pretty well. They're going to combat that, and we don't have a lot to worry about there. But that's interesting to me because, I see a large portion of the community that's always looking for that little edge, that little advantage, and that little slip from SBS where someone can get an edge on someone else. So that was fascinating to see, and I like the way they responded to it. Without reading it back verbatim, it was a good conversation.
Yes, yeah. What I liked about that one is it was actually a question that Adam from Vornair had asked, generated by a thread that's on the forums. There's a real good discussion, a little heated at times, but it was I think it was very, very well asked, and I liked the answer where basically, this is a game being designed by gamers, right? When you look at most of the dev team, most of them have been gaming, whether it's the whole gamut, everything from tabletop to kind of like the fantasy card games to computer games, etc. This is an incredibly experienced and very passionate and devoted dev team. Is always what seems to kind of like come to the forefront with these things, and they're aware of it, but they're also aware that they can't do everything to take it out, because otherwise you castrate the game, right? you castrate the game mechanics to the point where it's not really fun to play it anymore because you're wrapped up in cotton wool and protected all the time. So it won't necessarily be beneficial or easy for somebody to do, but if you've got a bunch of guys that want to get together and organize that and do it just for shits and giggles and shenanigans, theoretically it's going to be possible. Mel, did you have any input on that?
Hold on, sorry, I'm looking through the responses so far to the content.
Well, she's looking
Maybe
at
Mel
that.
has an answer,
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciated the response because this isn't the first time that something has come up where they said, well, yes, it's going to be possible. We're not completely going to shut that out of the game, although some of you would like for us to. But what we are going to do is we're going to make it extremely difficult or less advantageous for players to participate in this type of behavior. But if they really want to do it bad enough, it's there. They can do it. They're just not going to gain a whole lot from it. And that to me is the right response in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have anything to add, Mel, or?
Nothing, earth-shattering. I personally I always like the idea of disincentivizing more than just straight out banning things. I don't know, it's more interesting to me. It's probably the economist aspect. But yeah, I think it's viable, so I'm happy they're not banning it outright. Happy with what they're doing. Okay, that's it.
Alrighty, cool. So the one that I wanted to kind of jump just a little bit deeper into was the question was asked was, what can you do with alchemy apart from medicine? Would body enhancing drugs be a thing? And Suzu answered, body enhancing drugs, poisons, perception enhancers, things of that nature are all possible, as well as more chemistry-based actions. Alchemy historically allowed for the advancement of several disciplines and schools of knowledge beyond just alchemy. Vi added that alchemical compounds would absolutely be useful for other crafts as well, such as inks, dyes, repair materials, etc. And Caspian made the comment also that it's important to note, though, that unlike alchemy in most games, alchemy is not magic. It works through the same chemical reactions that chemistry does. So it's applicable in a lot of ways. So, what is the difference between alchemy and chemistry? The two in many ways are very closely entwined, and basically alchemy was in a way the precursor, the forerunner of chemistry, or at least chemistry as we define it in a modern day sense. And that is that, alchemy, it was unsuccessful in trying to define why the changes that occur between the various elements happen. Again, think of it as kind of like as crude chemistry where they could observe the chemical reaction, but they couldn't really describe it very well. So, on the simplest level, they could see wood being set on fire, and they can see that it, that was one reaction, that it created light and it created heat and it turned water into steam, but they didn't have, a periodic table for the elements and everything like we do nowadays. They didn't know about molecular structure and atoms to be able to piece these jigsaws on. It was a lot of trial and error. And, it's, their four base elements, I guess, back in Greek and Egyptian times was like, fire, earth, water, air as the very, very base thing, right? But what it was not going to be is, or at least from what I'm understanding, and again, I'm speculating here, it's not, alchemy isn't going to be the search for the elixir of life. It's not going to be for some, maybe it will be, again, it's just my speculation, but I don't feel that it's going to be, oh, you get this potion and you can live forever. You want to do that, you're probably going to have to become a lich king or something like that. I don't think that it's going to be the search for the philosopher's stone, which was the material they used to look for in the Middle Ages to try and turn, lead into gold, etc. It's going to be more, along the lines of, historically, it was relatively easy for people to extract just by heating base ores such as lead, tin, and a little bit later on copper, and extracting those base metals out of them. But metallurgy, which is very closely linked with alchemy, helped create the alloy of what is it? It's copper and tin, I believe, that makes bronze. And that started the Bronze Age. But it was alchemists, for example, in Egypt that learned how to extract iron ore from fragments of meteors that had fallen from the heavens, not smiths or anything like that. And in fact, this ore was so prized and it was so special at the time that the Egyptians actually used to refer to those weapons as daggers from the gods, or daggers from the heavens. So I really get the feeling that, as I said, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of observation and experimentation, and some of the other things that alchemy might touch on, including the extracting in a better way or a more refined way, or getting a purer type of ore than just by heating it directly on the forge. Pottery, pottery has a lot to do with alchemy and the various glazes that are put into that. The fermentation of beer and wine. Nowadays, that's all part of biochemistry, but they didn't know about biochemistry back then. Extracting chemicals and enzymes for plants, for medicine and various potions, rendering fat into soap, even making a glass and the alloys, like I said. I think this will all be part of what alchemy might touch on. So you might find that, somebody who really, really wants to advance very high in metalsmithing, for example, as a smith, might need to develop really good relationships with an alchemist who isn't interested in just creating the potions and the repair kits and everything like that, but on the research side, on the cutting edge of what is the latest way of refining an ore, or how do we find out how to put this particular plant extract into this liquid, and what does it create, and what are the effects? And I think there's going to be a number of deaths that occur unintentionally through experimentation, but well, that's all part of the game. Nos, what are your thoughts on alchemy?
I don't know about you, Mel, but I think Dee's pretty excited about alchemy.
I think he is.
I don't know if you've seen it, Dee, or not, but Snipe on her, while you were talking, you probably didn't see it, but he mentioned that alchemy is used in blacksmithing, formulation of saws to be used as flux, for example, tailoring, treating cloth, dyes, prints, medicine, construction, and the chat keeps moving, makes it difficult to read. But scribing inks and paper and treatment. So, he was, chiming in. One of the developers here, Snipe Hunter, was chiming in that, along the same lines of what you were talking about, alchemy does have a lot of practical uses. And, I can see if we have this amazing recipe for some rare item, it would require us to reach out to alchemists for different ingredients for that construction, and I don't think it's going to be along the lines of what you and I have been playing on Conan Exiles, making endowment potions and stuff. I don't think that's going to be in the game. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Mel?
Oh God, I think you about covered just about everything about alchemy. But yeah, I 100% agree with pretty well everything you said. It's something that I think is going to find its way into a lot of the other crafting disciplines. The dyes for the tailors and blacksmith and all that. I think it's something that's actually going to end up being really vital for a lot of different crafting professions to know, especially when they get into possibly the higher levels of what they're doing. You might actually need some alchemical techniques to really bring yourself up to the next level.
Yep. How about your next question that you want to address, Mel?
Oh, my next question I wanted to address. All right, hold on, let me scroll back up to make sure I say it correctly. All right, so the question was whether there was going to be a built-in system for university and guilds to essentially kind of monitor their members and see what they're doing. And the answer was no. Like you can see the time spent researching something, but as far as um, making sure people are researching something in particular, it's going to fall back to the contract system, which I love. So you're going to actually one way to do it, I would assume, would be you know have this contract for you want this particular thing researched, and you get a guild member or someone in the school who signs on to that, and then they're contractually obligated to research that particular thing, and that's how that's going to be enforced. So no built-in system, but well, I guess there actually kind of is, because contracts, you just have to use them correctly.
Cool, very cool. Nos, any input on that?
No, I'm just trying to figure out why my mic's crackling.
I think Snipe Hunter had said it's because it's close to your pants or something like. Oh,
Oh.
no, next to the fireplace. There we
Well,
go. Sorry.
my
Something
pants
about
are,
it
they
being
do get
hot
pretty
or
hot.
something.
Yeah, it
There
does
you
get pretty
go.
hot down there, like a fireplace. But
Alrighty, it's the crackling. It's the crackling bit that's
At least
disturbing.
his
If
camera's
that's
not
the
there.
case. That's right. All
I
right.
can fix that for you, Mel, if you want. Just offline though.
I'm good,
Offline.
Nuz. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Alrighty.
that.
So while you're doing with that, then Noz, I'll hop in then on the next question to give you a chance to sort that out and get to your next question. I think the next one that I wanted to tackle was so since we cannot taste what our characters taste, will there really be a use for food variety and innovation besides nutrition? And I think most of us are aware in most of the MMOs that we play that you get the cook profession. You kind of like you get up and you start off with your basic raw meat and you cook it, and as you progress through levels you might find various spices and they'll add various little buffs and everything like that, and that's kind of like your standard progression, and then you cap out and you're done and everybody's kind of like making the best food, and that's it. Nobody else bothers with raw meat anymore when they can kind of like have the feast of the kings that gives them all 6 buffs or something like that. So, Caspian had answered absolutely. Food in Illyria is about more than just restoring vitality and lowering fatigue. The foods you eat directly reinforce the development of your physical character. And what I want to do here is, if you can just hold on here. So I've posted a link in the Twitch chat there, and basically you can see. I don't. Let me see. I should actually bring that image up myself. You can actually see that there are 9 kind of like stats that we have in Chronicles of Illyria at the moment, and they're strength, agility, stamina, will, reason, focus, persuasion, intuition, and leadership. And what we're talking about here is that there will be different foods that will, in essence, affect not just kind of like how to give them a temporary buff, which might be the case, but that the diet that you eat, I mean, we know that the diet that you're going to eat in COE is going to affect your physique, right? It's going to affect whether you have a lean or muscular body mass, or whether you're kind of like, going to be overweight and large, etc. So it's not just a matter of that. It might be that the food that you want to eat to help raise certain skills throughout your lifetime will make you fat or make you thin, and you might have to do other things to kind of like to combat that. It's an interesting dynamic. I mean, the levels that this game kind of like is looking at going into is just, for me, phenomenal. It's as an example, what if you have a situation where and I'm purely speculating here, I want to make that very, very clear. But what if you have a situation where you have like royal jelly, which is also known as bees milk? It's kind of like what bees feed their larvae, and it's relatively rare and only gathered in small amounts, etc. But what if it has properties that help promote the raising of the leadership skill? Would monarchs, dukes, and counts try to buy up all of the royal jelly on the market? I mean, I don't know. These are areas of cooking that I've never had to think about in an MMO before. What if royal jelly can only come from cardinal bees that are going to be in the game, right? Would there be laws, and this goes back to the contracts that you love, Mel? Would there be laws that prohibit the cultivation of cardinal bees outside of county, duchy, or kingdom approved beekeepers? I don't know. I'm just more than anything really excited and interested to find out more. Every time we get a Q&A, it answers so many awesome questions, but because of the depth that they're answered on, it kind of it has us asking ones even deeper. We're an insatiable kind of crowd, unfortunately, for the COE devs, because they're obviously trying to develop the game. They're also doing an amazing job of interacting with us in the community, whether it's Q&As, whether it's, being a part of and commenting on the town crier, or right here with us on on the Boardwalk Chronicles. This is time that they're taking from, maybe not from development, but time spent with their families. And it's just, to me, it's a sign of just how passionate and dedicated they are to all of this. But, so forgive us for listening to you guys and then kind of creating even more questions. For every answer you give, I think we spout out another 10 or 20. Any thoughts on the cooking partners?
No, I'm just I'm being entertained by the comments in Twitch, and the it sounds like our viewership wants Nos jelly, infused with caffeine and Pop-Tarts. I prefer chocolate Pop-Tarts, but that got left off. But
alrighty, Mel, how about yourself?
Yep, you're muted.
Mel?
Sorry. Yeah, I know. I muted myself because I was drinking coffee again. Anyways, yes, I I am excited about it. Again, I'm excited by pretty well everything that anything that affects the player character, like aging and now eating and I'm just really fascinated by all the different ways that the way you play is going to affect how your character actually looks. The closest thing, and a really simplistic example of a game where I remember, if you ate particular foods, you either got really fat or you thinned out. And it was one of the Fable games. I forget which one it was, or maybe it was all of them. I haven't played those in a while. But yeah, I remember that in particular. But it was a very simple and kind of an obvious scale. You eat 3 carrots and in scale you get this much smaller. But I think this is going to be just because everything else we've seen has been so detailed and nuanced. I imagine it's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see what effects all the different kind of food's going to have.
Awesome stuff. Noz, did you want to dive into another question?
Sure. I did have a point on the cooking. It's going to be interesting to see. Cooking has meaning, and it's not just to fill a hunger bar. It's going to have it's going to have effects that affect you long term, not just boost your stamina for 5 ticks for the next 10 seconds. And that's exciting to me. You eat a bunch of junk, and you don't maintain a girlish figure like I do in real life. It's just cooking is going to be important. Your diet's going to be important, and it should be. It's meaningful. It has story elements to it, because you'll have certain areas of your domain that are famous for certain foods, and you'll want to go and take part in the feasts and and all the in our county, we're going to be doing New Orleans themed, not because I'm from there or anything. We're going to be doing carnival and carnival themed periods and seasons in the game, and we're going to pride ourselves in spicy foods and all that fun stuff. So yeah, come be a part.
Yeah. I think I'll just close out the subjects on that with the fact that again, and I think I mentioned this during the interview that we had with Snipe Hunter, was that I typically, when I play an MMO, and I've been playing them for 20 years, since Ultima Online back in 97, 98, when I started. Shout out to anybody who used to play on the Baja Shard there. But it's like, I would, I'd have my main character, but then I'd roll alts and I'd have a legendary smith, I'd have a legendary tinker, I'd have a legendary tailor, and a legendary tamer and cook and everything. And, the crafts were kind of like, sure, some people enjoyed like role playing them, but there wasn't anything that they could do that I couldn't do myself, right? If I wanted, the Feast of the Gods or whatever, I'd just quickly tune over to my cook. He'd pull out of the chest what my hunter-gatherer had put in the chest, the day before, and cook it. Even though it was an MMO, and, which is a massive, multiplayer online game, for all intents and purposes, I could be self-sufficient. I didn't need to play with anybody. Sure, I enjoyed the aspect, but it wasn't a necessity. And this game is going to make it a necessity. I don't see that you're going to be able to be a really good cook and a really good tailor and a really good hunter-gatherer and a really good fighter, et cetera, And I'm, part of me kind of like is, I'm going to have to depend on other people other than myself. But part of me is excited about that. It's nice to see. This to me it's a bold step, and I'm excited to see the way that it's going to develop. So, Noz, over to you for a last question, if you had one.
No, I'm going to roll 14 different accounts, and I'm going to be an expert at everything. That's what I'm going to do. You need anything, you let me know.
Will do. And so then, I think the last comment that I want to make, and I don't have the question up here, but it's more of a comment about one of the questions that was asked was of the devs. The devs were asked, each of them, what's your favorite tribe? And we had a whole variety, whether it was the Were or the Genoa or the Nerans, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the answer that kind of like struck me the most was Caspian's answer of, none of them. Because if there's one that I really like the most, it means that they're better than the rest, and we don't want any of the tribes better than the other. And to me, this isn't now just about the tribes, but it's an even further extended philosophy about also the biomes, right, and the kingdoms. And there's a lot of angst, at least, from what I hear from, my dukes and our counts and chatting with dukes and counts in other kingdoms is, oh my God, what if we get this biome? What if we get that biome? Well, in part, they've addressed that by having the, 2, 3, sometimes 4 biomes per kingdom now to have that greater diversity. But also what you're looking at is that, these are perceptions in our mind that it might be a disadvantage to be in a particular biome. But, based on those words of Caspian, you can transpose from, is there a favorite tribe, to, is there a favorite biome? And I would imagine that same philosophy, because this is a core philosophy in my mind, that same philosophy is applied to the biomes. That no, there isn't a favorite biome because, yeah, one might be better or have more resources than this, but another one like a desert, which everybody thinks, oh, it's kind of like, it's sterile. There's nothing there. There's nothing to do. But I just don't see them creating a biome that would punish people. This is definitely a game of haves and have-nots, where the have-nots want to get the stuff from the haves, but it's not going to be. It's a matter of proportion of scale, right? I don't think the have-nots are going to be left in the desert with absolutely nothing. It's just they'll have different things, and actually there might be things that are far more desirable in that desert than in any of the other biomes. So that's just a thought. But Noz, Mel, what are your thoughts on favorite tribes?
Okay, so my current favorite is the Taurus, just because Snipe, ever since you mentioned paper armor, my brain will not stop thinking of all the ways that you could do that. Because my initial thought is paper armor, you think of tearing, but then you think a little bit more and you realize how you can make like crazy strong like ropes and everything, just folding the paper a particular way. And so also there's paper mache. So now I keep mentally planning all the different ways that you could actually do really strong paper armor. Um, but yeah, so they're kind of my favorite right now. Side note though, I was trying to think of what desert mounts would kind of be like for the desert tribes. And I thought it'd be super cool if there was something like the Nubian ibex that jumps around on these like paper thin ledges like all across. I think it's the Arabian desert is where they are, and they're really cool animals. So if yeah, that's a thought. So I'm thinking more about the desert as well too.
Cross that with a kangaroo, and I think we got a winner there, right?
Do you love kangaroos?
Oh, all righty. So, Mel, did you want to pick out a winner for the competition? And while you are looking those over on the final ones, thank you to everybody for watching us. We'll be wrapping up here in about 5-10 minutes. Thank you especially to the devs that are here. I think I saw at least 4 of them in here. There might have been more. Apologies if I didn't see you all. It's a hassle for me sometimes juggling, but I saw Serpentius, who's a regular here, Snipe, Caspian, Suzu was here as well. It's wonderful to see you guys' support and helping out and answering the questions in the Twitch chat. It's like an extra bonus Q&A for everybody, right?
And our new dev, Orlando, was here too.
Oh, excellent. And as always, we invite everybody. What we do is we migrate from here over to the official COE Discord. Serp, correct me if it's the inn or the tavern. I forget which one is meant to be the right one for us to go to. But we go there. Sometimes there's no promise, and I don't make any promises, no pressure. But sometimes some of the devs will come and join us for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes even longer. So you have a chance to chat and talk with them directly and interact with them. Mel, what's our contest winner?
Okay, so our contest winner is the souls are being forged is a code phrase you tell a blacksmith when you need a chastity belt key made, which amuses me. So that is by Ironside81 on Twitch, and his COA4 name is Ironside. So get in contact with D, and yeah, get your token or your EP.
And Brunel surprise. Yeah, good job.
All righty. Thank you, everybody, and we shall see you in about 3-4 minutes over in the. Well, you can hop over right now. We just have a quick little wrap up here, but we'll see you over in the COE Discord, literally within a couple of minutes.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.